He ignored the warning, never enter the garden. There, he found love and a cruel fate. The afternoon heat in Nevada was relentless. The sky was an unyielding blue blanket over the research base where 27-year-old civil engineer Ryan Mercer was in the middle of his 5th month on an ultra-secret mission deep in the desert. Officially, he was there for expanding energy infrastructure for long-range communications. But everyone knew this place wasn't just a base. It was one of the few contact points between humans and extraterrestrial life. Ryan wasn't a soldier. He wasn't a hero. He was just a guy with a solid track record and an annoying habit of not following orders to the letter. That stubborn streak was what made him ignore the faded red warning scrawled on a crooked sign. Area 9, restricted. Violation equals immediate termination. But there was something about that low, barely guarded fence that seemed intentionally careless, like they expected someone, someday, to break protocol. And Ryan did. He slipped under the barrier, heart pounding, a voice echoing in his mind. Never enter the garden. That place isn't for humans. But he went in anyway. Inside was another world, a living alien garden, pulsing with colors that seemed to move, flowers that whispered, leaves that responded to the sound of his breath. No earthly pattern. The plants seemed guided by some other logic, full of curves, glimmers, and sounds that scrambled the senses. Ryan felt small, an intruder. Then he saw her. Standing among hanging vines and leaves floating around her was an impossible figure. Tall, slender, skin a deep shimmering green, like a jade river in the sun. Her long golden hair floated without a breeze. Thin, pointed ears picked up the slightest sound, and when she turned her face, her eyes pierced him with calm but undeniable intensity. She didn't seem surprised. Her voice came before her lips moved, as if speaking directly into his mind. "You shouldn't be here, Ryan Mercer." He froze. She knew his name. His mind split between 1,000 questions and one certainty. Nothing would ever be the same after this. "I didn't know anyone was here," he said quietly, unsure if it was fear, fascination, or sheer dizziness tightening his chest. She stepped forward, and the garden seemed to make way. The leaves gently parted, as if respecting her. "Amayara, you're an alien. And you're reckless. This place, it's beautiful. And forbidden. To you. For a reason." Ryan felt the ground tremble slightly. Or maybe it was just his pulse. Ayara came closer, and he saw that despite her surreal color, her skin was warm, real, alive. "So why are you here?" he asked, daring. "If it's so forbidden." She paused, then looked up at the sky with opal eyes. "Because I broke a rule too. And now, maybe, we're trapped by the same fate." The garden gave out a low sound, like a warning. Ayara turned quickly. "Leave, Ryan Mercer. Go back now before it's too late." But it was too late, because what he felt then, a strange spark, an invisible pull between him and that creature of unreachable beauty, was more than curiosity. It was the start of a bond, something neither of them could undo. The next morning, Ryan tried to return to his routine, but something inside him had changed. The garden, with its living whispers and that unforgettable figure, had planted roots in his mind. During breakfast, he barely heard the base supervisor's warnings. Words like increased surveillance, signals detected in Sector 9, and no movement after 10 p.m. floated around him like noise. He only thought of Ayara. That night, he returned. This time, Ayara was waiting, sitting beneath a tree with crystalline leaves. She looked at him with unsettling calm. "You don't understand what you've done, do you?" "Maybe not, but I can't stay away." Ayara looked away, and for a moment, Ryan caught something in her eyes, fear. "I am a daughter of the rift, born at the crossroads of matter and energy, created to keep this garden's balance. I wasn't made for human touch, or their emotions." Ryan knelt before her, watching how her presence made the plants around them glow softly, as if the garden was listening. "Then why do you still talk to me? Why don't you banish me?" She took a deep breath. The garden seemed to hold its breath with her. "Because when you came in, something inside me stirred. And it shouldn't have." "What does that mean?" "It means you broke me too." Before they could go further, a shadow crossed the sky. A drone, small, but equipped with optical and thermal sensors. From a base. Ayara jumped up, eyes wide. They can't see me. If they detect my form outside the convergence zone, they'll trigger containment protocol. Containment? Ryan asked, confused. She didn't answer. Instead, she ran to a flower with black petals, touched its core, and the ground beneath them shook. A ring of light surrounded them, folding space silently into a vortex. Suddenly, they were deeper in the garden, darker. Ayara trembled. They came before. Humans. Military. They didn't understand what this place does to those who feel too much. They tried to dominate. The garden consumed them. Will it happen to me? She didn't answer right away. She came closer, this time her touch brushing Ryan's arm. A shock of warmth ran through him, like touching something divine and forbidden. The bond has already begun. If you go back, you'll carry a fragment of this place with you, and it will change you. Mentally, physically. You'll never be just human again. Ryan took a step back. For the first time, he felt the weight of what he'd done. So you're saying, this place could kill me? Ayara looked at him like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Or worse, it could change you forever. And still, Ryan knew he would come back, not out of curiosity, but for her. In the days that followed, Ryan lived a lie. During the day, he smiled, answered reports, adjusted solar panels, and played the part of a model engineer. But at night, when the desert cooled and silence blanketed the base, he slipped past the crooked fence toward the impossible. Ayara was always there. At first, she waited hesitantly, but soon, their talks moved from warnings to questions, from questions to stories. She spoke of her people, the Mysterians, who weren't born of flesh, but from energetic convergences between worlds. She described the garden as a living organism that felt, reacted, and loved on its own terms. And she spoke of him. Ryan learned that, contrary to what he thought, Ayara wasn't some passive observer. She'd been sent to test the limits of human contact. He was a risk, a study, and maybe a failure. I shouldn't like you, Ryan Mercer, she said one night, sitting beside him as they watched the dark blue sky blend with branches glowing like fiber optics. But the more you listen to me, the more the garden listens to you too. Is that bad? It's dangerous. He turned to her. Ayara's face was calm, but there was tension there, like a rope about to snap. What if I told you I like you too? She didn't answer. She touched a bluish plant nearby, and the flowers silently bloomed, revealing a pool of water at its center. Ryan saw his reflection, but his eyes looked different, darker, almost opalescent, like hers. The garden has already started to assimilate you, Ryan. Don't you see? Your structure is changing. You don't feel hunger anymore, or tiredness, or cold. He stayed silent. It was true. Since her first touch, something inside him had shifted, like his body was calibrating for a new environment. What's going to happen to me? You'll have to choose. Stay or run before it's irreversible. Before he could answer, the ground vibrated. This time, not because of the garden. It was mechanical. Alarms started blaring in the distance. A sharp metallic sound cut the air. The skies darkened as if an eclipse had formed. Drones. Several. In formation. They found you, Ayara said, panic in her voice. But not just you. They tracked me through your DNA. Ryan jumped up. You need to hide. It's too late. They're coming for me. To take me. To destroy me. They won't let the bond complete. She ran to a cluster of stones, pulsing purple, and pressed the center. A circle started forming on the ground, like a portal. If I go through now, I can disconnect from the garden. Erase myself. But you will forget everything. Ryan hesitated. The drone sound was closer now. Armed. This wasn't a warning. It was a containment operation. Ayara reached out her hand. If I leave, you go back to who you were. But we don't have time. And if I stay, you die, Ryan finished. She nodded. He looked at her hand. At the drones. At the garden, now pulsing erratically like it was afraid. And he understood what he had to decide. Save himself, or risk everything for someone who shouldn't even exist. Time folded in seconds. The drone's blades swept the sky like metallic predators. Red lights targeted the garden branches like cold, soulless eyes. The living forest tried to close in, defend Ayara, but it was useless against military sensors tuned to detect any energy disturbance. Ayara kept her hand out, but her voice was steady. You can still run. Go back the way you came. They'll question you, sure, but maybe they'll let you live. Ryan didn't move. And you? If I go through that portal, I disappear, disconnect from my physical form, start over, become mist information. I won't be me anymore. Then don't go. Staying means they'll destroy me. You know that, Ryan. The metallic sound intensified. They were right above. That's when Ryan did something reckless. Without warning, he grabbed Ayara by the waist and ran with her deeper into the garden. Every step triggered reactions in the ground. Roots moving, leaves snapping, branches trying to shield them. The garden recognized Ayara, and now it recognized Ryan too. Are you crazy? She screamed in his mind, between breaths. I know. They stopped behind a formation of translucent stones vibrating at Ayara's touch. It was a hidden space, like a sanctuary, but the garden seemed unstable, overloaded by their choice. Ryan pressed his forehead to hers. I came here for you. Turning back now would betray everything I've found. I'm another form of life. My touch alters your biology. It could destroy you from within. And even if you survive, you'll never be accepted on the other side. Then I won't go back. The drones hovered over the garden canopy. A beam of energy cut through the surrounding leaves. They weren't searching anymore. They were attacking. Ayara screamed, not with her mouth, but an energy scream that made the ground writhe, the air vibrate, and the garden's trunks grow wildly around the beam. She positioned herself between Ryan and the falling beams. The garden responded. Like an enraged organism, it fought back. Thorny vines rose up against the lights, spraying poisonous mist into the air. One drone fell, exploding in sparks. The garden was now a battlefield. Ryan grabbed Ayara by the shoulders. I have to do something. I can interfere with the base's protocol, the drone controls, but I have to get out of here. Ayara looked at him, eyes wet, skin buzzing as if every cell was torn between fleeing and desire. If I leave now and get captured, they'll say you're corrupted, that you're no longer human, that you're a planetary threat. I'm already tired of just being human. He ran. He fled from the heart of the garden like a man running away from himself. He passed through the living fields, under the crooked fence, past the warning sign, now singed by sparks from the fight. He reached the control station, shut down during the operation, and forced open the auxiliary panel with a code only field engineers knew. He connected to the network. He disabled the drones. One by one, they fell like metallic flies. Inside, the garden calmed. The leaves stopped struggling. The whispers ceased. Ayara dropped to her knees. Not from weakness, but something deeper. She had never expected anyone to break the cycle. No one had ever risked everything for her. Ryan returned to the garden, covered in dust and soot. When he saw her, he knelt beside her and whispered, worn out but tender, "You don't have to run anymore. Not while I'm here." She touched his chest, where a glowing mark now pulsed, the sign of the bond they'd started. So now we're linked, until the end. If you've ever rooted for an impossible love, subscribe to the channel. There are plenty more stories like this. And leave a comment. Would you have done what Ryan did? The drones were down, but the war was far from over. Hours after the system shut down, the base went on full alert. Ryan's superiors disappeared, replaced by new agents, cold, silent, armed with non-lethal but deadly enough weapons if needed. They didn't talk to the engineers. They just watched and tracked. Ryan knew he was marked. Still, he kept coming back to the garden. And Ayara was different. Before, her movements floated lightly. Now, there was a weight on her shoulders, a subtle fatigue in every gesture. The connection between them seemed to affect her more than him. The garden, though calm, felt restrained, like something was draining it. The core is unstable, she admitted one night, lying beside him under branches that radiated warmth. My bond with you is demanding more from the garden than it was made to give. It was built to isolate, not to unite. You want me to stop coming? She didn't answer right away, just turned and rested her face on his collarbone. The cold skin from before was now warm, almost human. I don't want to, but if this goes on, you'll lose more of yourself. Your physiology is already undergoing cellular mutation. Don't you see? Your pupils have changed. Your heart rate stopped fluctuating. I feel more alive now than I ever have. Maybe but you won't be the one paying the highest price. The next morning, Ryan was called to the interrogation room. A metal chamber, no windows. 3 men at the table. 1 observer in the back. No names. "We know you disable the drones," the man in the middle said, voice neutral. "We know where you go at night and who you're in contact with." Ryan didn't answer. "The creature you interact with is classified as a level 3 threat. Continued contact may cause partial neurological collapse, as well as emotional contamination by extra-rational entities. Do you understand the seriousness of this?" He crossed his arms. "She has a name, and she's not a threat." The man on the left leaned forward. "You think you're in love. We've seen this before. The illusion of reciprocity the garden plants. But none of it is real. The alien doesn't feel the way you do." Ryan almost laughed. "You don't know anything about her. You're just afraid of what you can't control." The interrogator sighed. "Last chance, Mercer. Cut the bond. Give us the access point to the garden, or you'll be treated as part of the anomaly." Ryan looked at the 3 men. Then he looked inside himself. The mark on his chest still pulsed. Ayara was alive and waiting. "I choose her." When he left the room, he was escorted, but he smiled because he knew when the choice involves something real, something that changes the very meaning of existence, the price is worth it. Always worth it. That same night, in the garden, Ayara felt his pulse from afar. The connection between them was now more than biological. It was spiritual. But she also knew the consequences had begun. It was the 4th day without base access. After refusing to sever the bond with Ayara, Ryan was officially placed under bioenergetic quarantine. That meant confinement to one of the outer blocks, no communication with other humans. A security system watched his every move. He was a prisoner, but also freer than he'd ever been. Because at night, he could still escape. The garden let him in, and Ayara waited. But she was deteriorating. The transformation wasn't just his. The symbiosis affected both of them. And while Ryan's body adapted to the garden's living ecosystem, Ayara weakened in his presence. The divide between their natures was an invisible battlefield. "The connection is failing," she said, voice breaking. "If it continues, either the garden will consume me, or it will consume you completely to try to keep our bond. Then we'll find another way. You said the garden was like an organism. Isn't there a way to reconfigure the bond?" "There is, but it demands something irreversible." Ryan knelt before her. The ground reacted to his knees, forming a faint halo of light. "Tell me, the only way to stabilize the bond is to let the garden create a fusion, to unify our structures into a single bioenergetic body. But if we do that, you'll no longer be recognized as human, and I will cease to exist as a Mysterian. Then what will we be? Something new, nameless, without a people, without a planet." For a long time, neither spoke. Then Ryan reached out his hand. "Then show me how." Ayara hesitated. Her eyes, now partly golden, reflected light like his. "Are you sure? You'll lose your human voice. Your body will be reconfigured. Your memories might fade over time. If I forget everything, make me remember. And if you disappear, let me search for you, even in what I don't understand." She took his hand. The garden responded. Slowly, roots began climbing up their legs like ribbons of liquid light. They didn't strangle, they cradled. The fusion had begun. It was as if the world ceased to be three-dimensional. They floated, even while still. Time lost its axis. Ayara merged with him. Ryan felt every cell change. Their senses expanded. Touch was no longer physical. It was total. They felt each other with their souls, in the space between thought and instinct. And in the midst of it all, love. Not a fragile love, bound by biology or form, but something ancient, fierce, and whole. Something that didn't depend on words. When the fusion ended, they were changed. His skin now glowed with greenish reflections. Her eyes held bluish hues never seen before in Mysterians. They were not one. They were two in symbiosis. A new species. And for a moment, the garden bloomed like never before. Whole trees exploded with translucent flowers. The sky shimmered in violet tones. The ground pulsed like a heart. The garden accepted. The garden celebrated. Ayara, or whatever she had become, pressed her forehead to his. "Now, there's no turning back, but there is a path. Shall we follow it?" Ryan smiled. Always. They weren't subtle enough. IR and Ryan's fusion released a wave of energy that didn't go unnoticed. The base's monitoring stations detected a red-class anomaly. The bioenergetic frequency readings fluctuated beyond known patterns, neither Mysterian nor human. It was something new, and all things new, command eliminates. The next morning, as Ryan and Iara explored the garden's limits with heightened senses, feeling life pulse beneath their feet, hearing the plants whisper as if speaking, a shadow fell over them. Literally, an orbital containment mech, the size of a 5-story building, activated around Sector 9's perimeter. The base's last security layer, with a single purpose: neutralize. Iara felt it first. A sharp pain pierced her skull. They brought the Farron vault. What's that? Ryan asked, eyes tense. A machine built to contain interdimensional ruptures. It won't just destroy us. It'll erase the entire garden. The earth shook. The machine descended with smoking thrusters, armed with thermal sensors, plasma towers, and empathy-free intelligence. As soon as it detected them, it locked its targeting beam on them. Target: hybrid anomaly. Purification authorization granted. Ryan stepped in front of Iara. I'll distract it. You run. If you run, the garden dies. If you fight, you die. There's no easy way out. Then we make one. Iara ran to the garden's center, where a stone pillar wrapped in silver vines stood. That's the core. I can fuse my consciousness with it. Undo the fusion. Awaken the original guardian. And you. I'll disappear. Ryan ran to her. We've done this before. Together. Let's do it again. They touched the core at the same time. An explosion of energy threw them back. The ground cracked. The air shifted colors. The garden, now entranced, began opening a living rift, a channel of ancestral memory that had slept for centuries. And from the earth's depths, something awoke. A being made of light and root, with eyes like constellations and arms bending like living branches, rose from the forest's heart. The guardian. It looked at them with sadness, then with resolve. Iara stood and approached the being. I accept. The exchange is mine. Let Ryan live. But Ryan held her back. You won't sacrifice yourself for me. Not again. The guardian bowed, and a voice, not sound, but pure truth, echoed inside them. Someone must go. Someone must stay, or the garden dies forever. Ryan looked at Iara and smiled. Then take me. She tried to stop him, but he touched her face one last time. You gave me more than life. You gave me purpose. The guardian wrapped them in arms of light. The mech fired. The beam hit the core. Explosion. Light. Silence. When the dust settled, the garden had vanished from the radar. The mech neutralized. In the crater's center, one single flower remained, pulsing faintly. Iara dropped to her knees before it and wept without sound. Ryan was no longer there, but inside her, he never left. The garden did not die. It slept. After Ryan's sacrifice, the alien ecosystem entered deep hibernation. The roots withdrew. The flowers lost their glow. The sky over Sector 9 stopped pulsing. To the base's sensors, it seemed everything had been wiped out. But Iara knew. Nothing there had ended. In the following days, she wandered alone along the hidden edges of the space she once shared with Ryan. His body was gone, but the changes he'd undergone during the fusion had left traces. Tiny emerald light particles in the leaves. Frequency pulses resonating from a core. And mostly, the mark on her chest, the same one that once was his. She touched it every night, felt the warmth, and remembered. In the human world, the base declared operation terminated due to uncontrollable biological risks. Sector 9 was sealed. Satellites lost access. What had once been an interspecies contact point became a buried secret. Iara was never captured. No one outside the garden would know she survived. She lived on the fringes, between two worlds, hidden, watching, but never expecting. Until the night, the ground pulsed again. It started with a slight tremor. Then came the glow, not from the base, but from the living earth awakening bit by bit. The guardian had kept its promise, and with it, something else was waking. Iara ran to the garden's old center. The flower that remained, the one that grew in the explosion's place, now trembled. It slowly opened. From inside, it rose a sphere of energy, and at the center of the sphere, a silhouette. Not quite Ryan, nor Ayara, but something in between. A slender body, with metallic greenish skin, short golden hair, eyes shifting in color, memory forming, identity in fusion. The sphere landed. The creature fell to its knees. It breathed like it had never breathed before. Ayara approached slowly. Ryan. The creature lifted its gaze. It didn't speak, but its eyes said everything. He remembered. Not everything. Not clearly. But the essentials. The connection. The love. The yes. That changed everything. Ayara knelt before him and smiled, tears in her eyes for the first time since the end. You came back. Different, but you came back. And for the first time in days, the garden bloomed again. The garden was alive, but no longer what it once was. The trees had changed color. The flowers no longer followed the original pattern. There was a new order now, more unstable, more unpredictable, more human. Ayara felt it in every step. The garden now responded to emotions, not just frequencies. It cried with her, smiled with Ryan, dreamed things that had never existed before. And that, as dangerous as it was beautiful. She thought about everything that had happened. The first glance, the forbidden touch, the impossible connection that should never have formed. She thought about how Ryan looked at her, knowing she was from another world, not as something exotic or dangerous, but as someone real, someone worth knowing. That was what broke the garden's logic. That was what made it bloom and almost die. He wasn't a classic hero, not military, not trained to face mechs or containment protocols, but he was the one who stayed. And that changes everything, because in the end, it was love that endured. Not the romantic love from ordinary movies, but the brave love. The love that remains when everything falls apart. The love that faces difference without needing to conquer it. The love that changes, bleeds, and is reborn. And Ayara, she stopped being just a daughter of the Rift. Stopped being guardian, living weapon, protocol. Now, she was a choice. The choice of someone who saw beyond appearances, who didn't ask her to be human, who accepted her as she was, and jumped into the unknown for it. The world outside would never know. The base erased the data. The government classified the incident as an isolated atmospheric collapse. No one else entered Sector 9, but the garden remembered, and so did Ayara. Sometimes, walking among the pulsing roots and the sky bending into impossible hues, she heard his voice, not in words, but in gestures, in the way the ground vibrated beneath her feet, in the warmth of a flower that only bloomed when she smiled. And she knew Ryan was there, not as he was, but as what he'd become, a new being, without labels, without nation, a symbol of everything that happens when two worlds stop fearing each other and begin to love. Did loving cost a lot? Yes, it cost everything, but every spark, every risk, every rupture was worth it, because what was born there can never be destroyed again. 5 years later, the Nevada dunes had swallowed almost everything. The old rusty fence, the restricted area sign, the abandoned base station, now a skeleton corroded by time and silence. But in one specific spot in the desert, where satellites still glitch and compasses go crazy, there's something that can't be explained or erased. The garden lives, not like before, not as an experimental colony or extraterrestrial biome. Now it's wild, autonomous, sacred. And at the heart of this new ecosystem is a clearing where time seems to fold, where light filters through trees and shades unknown to any spectrum, where gravity behaves gently, and where two figures walk side by side. Ayara, her skin now a blend of green and gold tones, her eyes carrying memories of two species, and Ryan, or whatever he became, a hybrid-structured being, silent, perceptive, with a presence that needs no words. They don't talk much, but the garden understands. Here, love doesn't need explaining. It doesn't need to fit formulas. It doesn't need to be accepted by any civilization. Here, love just is. Sometimes, a shooting star passes over the garden. Sometimes, a new flower blooms with the mark of the fusion that changed everything. Sometimes, a sound echoes like laughter, or a whisper, and those who listen swear they hear. You came back to me. Thank you for following this story to the end. If it touched you somehow, comment what moved you the most. Share it with someone who loves a strong, unusual story. and subscribe for more impossible romances that defy everything. See you on the next journey.